Live Laugh Stuck is a self-indulgent podcast featuring a heart player encouraging you to be self-indulgent too. Welcome home. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Live Laugh Stuck. And it is time for, I almost said Solix and Nepeta, but that was last Saturday. I think it was last Saturday. Is that when I put out Solix and Nepeta? Probably. Who knows? Time's an illusion, right? No, it's Eridan and Feferi. We got the Sea Dwellers. We have the last of the Trolls. And people are very excited about them, especially Eridan, but we'll get into it. So, I'll start with Eridan. I like all the characters. He's a character I've grown to love over time. I have friends who are huge Eridan fans, and the more I see shitty fish boys in, like, fan ventures and stuff, the more I like shitty fish boys, and Eridan is definitely a shitty fish boy. Not to mention, because of my Dirk bias, I now have to have a bias for all princes. So, it's a shitty fish boy prince, and I love him. And by I love him, I mean I appreciate him when I see him on screen, and I don't think about him much otherwise. But he's good. So, his route... So we find him on Vriska's beach, which isn't really Vriska's beach, but it was the background from Vriska's route, and I think it's the same beach, so I'm calling it Vriska's beach. So he's hanging out on Vriska's beach after having gotten dumped by Vriska and by Feferi. So he's kinda, just moping and staring into the ocean dramatically, and, just being sad because he got, double dumped. And you come along and he starts, spilling his whole fucking life story to you, which reader says that, readers yet to come across someone who's done that and made it this easy. But Tavros is right there. Tavros literally did that. I mean, sure, it took oh no, I probably shouldn't. No, I mean, it's fine if you do. Okay. And just, dumps it all. And Eridan was much more upfront, but I don't think that that's enough of a distinction to say that Eridan is the first one to kind of just freely dump everything on reader and make it very easy for them. The hilarious twist is that apparently this is a service that he expects payment for. So I wonder, I can't imagine that anyone asks for this service, that anyone is desperate enough for a feelings jam, for some pale action, that they go to Eridan for this. So I'm just imagining him walking through the fucking city and just seeing someone maybe sitting at a table by themselves or something, and just sitting down and dumping everything on them and then asking for money, which is great, especially since he's rich as all shit. So it's fantastic, and I love that. I also like his first choice, the first bad end you can get with him is all about you having to choose where to go, and if you don't choose the right place, then he just fucks off and walks away because you're supposed to be able to read his mind and figure shit out. And sorry, we're not Vriska. We can't read your mind and figure shit out. And if Vriska, Vriska can read your mind, and if she ever wanted to figure shit out, she'd probably do the exact opposite of what you were thinking you wanted to do. The only thing I wish with that is that for each of the wrong options you picked, there would be slightly different dialogue. I know that's harder than just copy and pasting, or just having them all direct to that same ending is probably what happened. A little more coding involved with that. Honestly though, all they probably needed to do was just, when you have that choice, you get like a word, you get a variable change, and then it can all link to the same ending, but then they just put in like variable name. I don't know. I think it would have been neat, but that's just me, and that's kind of what I focus on when I make visual novels and choice-based games, is all the little tiny details that can change. Sometimes that stops me from making a good story, and definitely stops me from thinking about other things. But, we need to hyper-focus on something and then gather other people around us to hyper-focus on something else. That's how we work. But it was nice. It was very, I'm assuming classic Eridan. From what I've heard from Eridan stands, is classic Eridan to be like this. It was very nice. And when you pick go to a movie, he's like, good, you chose the right option because I was going to go to a movie anyway. And reader's like, what the fuck? And then reader disassociates thinking about Shrek too hard. And here I have to admit something. I got Shrek 2 mixed up with Shrek 3. I don't know why, except I was on a stream. If I would have taken like 2 seconds to think about Shrek 2 and Shrek 3, obviously, like, they couldn't have swapped places, but they did in my head. And so I said at some point during the stream, I think it was at the end of Eridan's route, that Shrek 2 was the worst Shrek movie. And I will never live down that shame, nor forgive myself, because, as many of you know, this was almost a Shrek podcast. I own all the Shrek movies. I own all the Shrek soundtracks. I watch essays about Shrek. And I mixed up Shrek 2 and Shrek 3 and called Shrek 2 the worst Shrek movie. It was horrible. Hold on. Someone's trying to fucking cast on my TV. Fucking always block. I don't know if I'm gonna leave that in, but that's just very funny. Just this fucking notification pops up. Someone's trying to... I don't know if they were, like, intentionally trying to get my TV or a stranger's TV, or if, like, they also have a TV similar to mine, or they just clicked on the wrong one. That's very funny. I've been living in this apartment for over a year, and this has not happened. I've had this TV for a while, and this has not happened. Anyway, what was I talking about? My Shrek shame. So we can get away from my Shrek shame now, because we are going on the airship that is described as being so fucking gigantic, I personally literally cannot conceptualize it. So basically, it's fucking big. And of course, since it's fucking big, and since Eridan is rich as shit, he has this whole, like, wardrobe area that also has a pile of wands. Which, okay, so this scene is funny, because, like, he says, hey, don't mess with the wand pile, magic's fake, I just took them because it's fake, and people shouldn't have these, especially not lowbloods, and I totally took these by force from lowbloods, from the store, where I also gave a lot of money to the owner of the store that I took these from by force. Like, Eridan, you, like, legitimately actually, like, you talk about, like, killing lowbloods, and you went and you literally just showed up in a store and handed them shit tons of money and took all their wands. So that's very amusing for me. What is more exciting to many, many people about this wardrobe scene is that Eridan has dresses in the scene, which might strike fear in some of you who are aware of March Eridan, because I guess I'll kind of explain it. I wasn't around for March Eridan. I didn't really get into the fandom until last year, so I'm kind of just finding out about fandom things that happened, like, in the several years that I was not paying attention to the fandom part of Homestuck. March Eridan was when Eridan was being shown being dressed up in this kind of, I think it was like a sort of exposing dress, and my phone went off because I always forget to mute it. So it's basically like a risque dress, I guess, and it became kind of a meme because it was for a calendar, and that was the March calendar. So March Eridan was Eridan in a... I'm trying to think of good words for this because the only word coming to my mind is slutty. And that's not good. That's not a good descriptor. I mean, it might be... It's not good. I shouldn't say a slutty dress. But you know what I mean. So, anytime he's shown wearing, like, feminine clothes, it's usually, like, really tacky, really exposing, really kind of shitty, tropey shit. And that's not good. And many people have a lot of problems about it, which is very fair. Thankfully, I haven't seen any of that, but I also don't go looking for Eridan content most of the time, so I don't know how prevalent it is. But we find out that, like, I mean, for one, they look like just normal high-class dresses. Like, they're good dresses. And Eridan's like, yeah, those are my fucking dresses. I wear them. What the fuck ever. And then goes on to this huge spiel about gender and how it's fucking meaningless and pointless. And, like, who the fuck cares about gender anyway? Trolls have been trans since the fucking ancestors' time. Like, literally anyone who says that, like, trans people are bad or, like, anything negative about trans or gender non-conforming trolls, they just suck and they're stupid and they're wrong. And that's great. And I love it because, like, it's immediately, like, reflected by how, like, now the Hemocast, that's some good shit. Anything below gold bloods are gutter bloods, and they suck and should die and have no point in living in society. And I was like, okay, so we're seeing this parallel, this hypocrisy in his line of thinking. So what comes next is we have to get in touch with Solix. And the way we get in touch with Solix is kind of weird to me because, like, out of nowhere, Eridan is just like, hey, by the way, you know Solix, right? Do you know how many dicks he has? And that's kind of awkward, right? Like, it's been really established by now, like, it's been established by Solix, like, hey, things are weirder with you because you are not 13 like we are 13. And then Eridan just comes out and says, hey, do you know how many dicks this 13-year-old has? And it just felt like out of nothing and nowhere, and it was kind of weird. And then we kind of get into this whole thing about how, like, can you believe you guys want to know how many dicks Solix has? Like, that's such a weird thing for the fandom to fixate on, and it's a mystery that doesn't need to be solved, and we're not going to tell you here. Maybe in a couple of years. And I'm like, that's fine. I don't want Pastor Quest to tell me how many dicks a 13-year-old has. Like, if it comes up in Homestuck 2 with adult Solix, that's funnier, you know? And, like, maybe there's just some, like, disconnect for me because, like, they were still 13 in, like, Homestuck proper, 13 and 16, and, like, people still made jokes like that and stuff. Like, that's where the whole thing came from. But, like, I guess Pastor Quest is doing, like, for one, it's come out in a more modern Homestuck fandom, and for two, it's doing more of a job of reminding you that these are children and stuff is weird because Reader is not a child of their age. So, I don't know, there's just this weird disconnect there for me. Maybe this was, like, a lot funnier to people who are not, like, so much older than, like, the Pastor Quest kids. But for me, it was just kind of weird that this popped up out of nowhere. I did appreciate that they're like, yeah, Eridan did start this conversation, but he is now very uncomfortable with it. And then it leads to basically a hate date between Solix and Eridan, or at least that's the way Eridan sees it. So Solix is like, hey, I'm gonna come kick your ass in, like, 2 hours. Wait where you are. And, like, yeah, so then we have, like, a time skip as we wait for Solix to come, and he comes, and he's all, like, fucking ready to throw down, and Reader's like, ah, shit, like, this is worse than Asdaja. Like, I am ready to die. And so then, your next interesting choice comes is Solix is about to throw a fucking maul at Eridan, and you can choose to, like, try to save Eridan, or say, nah, I need to get out of here, like, immediately. Eridan's, you know, he's hardy, right? I'm gonna leave, because Eridan's fine, right? Eridan was fine. If you try to save him, you just end up getting your arm sliced off, and then you die. Which, you know, that's how it goes sometimes. I like okay, this might be weird, but I like the focus on how much pain Reader was in with his arm cut off. I don't know, something about the description of, like, hey, why didn't anyone tell you how bad it hurt to have a laser cut your arm off? Was very, very funny to me. I don't know why. Like, this is completely arbitrary, and I'm sure that there are similar things in other routes that I didn't like as much, but for this, in the here and now, that was very funny to me. But when we don't save Eridan, when we get our asses out of there, and as we're leaving, we see that Eridan also had an escape plan, and we go back to the crash site of the ship, and we see Solix there, and he reminds us that he can see when people are about to die, or he hears them, so, like, he wasn't just gonna, like, bone down on Eridan and, like, actually kill him. Like, that was not the intent, and he would have known to let up, because he can see, or he can hear when people are about to die. Like, he knows that. That is the thing he knows. And then we have this whole talk about Eridan, and, like, why the fuck are you dealing with him, Reader? He's not your responsibility. He's just this shitty dude, and it's no one's responsibility to hang out and wait for him to change, or try to change him, or anything like that. Which is all, you know, it's true. Like, just because you know that a shitty person can change, and you can, like, kind of understand why they're a shitty person, and how you might be able to help them get better, doesn't mean you have to, like, do that. And a lot of the times, it's often best for you to, like, not do that, because it's very difficult and draining, and, like, it's not your responsibility, and you gotta think about your own mental health and shit. But there's this Reader, so he's like, nah, or Reader's kind of like, no, that's kind of what I do. This whole conversation was seen as a lot of people by Aerosol rights, and also seen by a lot of people as Aerosol is dead. So it's kind of up to interpretation, which is Homestuck anyway. So it's kind of just like, I mean, yeah, I guess it's both. It's like Aerosol's dead because Solix is not there to stick around to wait for Eridan to become better Kismesis, but, like, Aerosol is alive because, like, Solix is still, like, interested in a less shitty version of Eridan Kismesis, I guess. I still like Aerosol, so that's what we're gonna leave it at. And you go to Eridan, and he is like, hey, I'm literally being, like, crushed under a bunch of shit here. I basically got triple dumped now. What the fuck is wrong with me? And you're like, are you sure? Are you sure you want to know? And he's like, yeah, fuck, yeah. I mean, like, what else? I mean, I'm at my lowest. Hit me with some more shit. So you go off on, like, this thing. Fuck, I, like, wanted to, like, really summarize it really well, but basically, like, saying what's wrong with Eridan and how you think he can change, but he's probably not gonna change overnight, or over the next year, he's still probably gonna be pretty shitty because changing takes time, and God, yeah, there wasn't a significant difference between my 13-year-old and 14-year-old self. It takes a lot of time to change, but it's a lot easier when you have people there who will be like, yeah, you suck, but we're gonna try to help you suck less. And it's a process, and I'm gonna be here with you. And Reader is willing to do that, and it's very nice. And again, not a requirement, doesn't make you a bad person if you're not there to do that for someone. But Reader's there to be that for Eridan. Then they go and they watch Shrek 2. And it's nice, because, yeah, more things should end with watching Shrek 2. So yeah, so let's go on to Feferi. Feferi's route overall... See, I'm gonna suck, and I'm not gonna go play by play as I did with Eridan's and as I do with most of them, just because there isn't a whole lot in the play-by-play. Like, you start out saying, fuck it, I'm gonna take this to the highest power. And you go to the highest power, and it's Feferi, and she's underwater and you almost drown. And you can choose to not almost drown, or you can choose to stick there and see if you really are immortal. Which, I think that was kind of a weird writing point, because, like, the way Reader talks about immortality in this route, like, their own immortality is, like, they get into a deadly situation and simply cannot die. When it's, they get into a deadly situation, they die, and then they go back to the, like, before the choice that led them to that deadly situation. But they were stressing over it as though, like, they would just possibly eternally drown, or eternally be chewed and die, or just eternally suffer like that. And I don't know, maybe Reader doesn't remember the things that, like why they have all the, I don't know, to me that bit didn't make sense. It was an interesting theory for just a general idea of immortality if you're testing it out, like I would, but, like, I don't want to drown in the ocean forever and be in constant suffering pain, but that's not how Reader's immortality works, and they should know that, because they have all those doomed offshoots where they actually do die. Like, they actually did die in the last route with the bad end. But, like, you know, Feferi is cute, and Feferi, and it's like, yeah, I'm the ruler, and yeah, Alternia sucks, and here, let me get out this magic, mysterious plot device thing. And Kariko's there, except he's not Kariko. He's, like, being used by a higher power to be mysterious and talk about, like, how what you see on one level is just a small part of the bigger picture, and if you look at that bigger picture, that's just a small part of the bigger picture, and that bigger picture is a smaller part of the bigger picture. A lot of people are really interested in the various pronouns used when talking about, like, the creators. Like, his creator has a creator, and his creator has a creator, and her creator has a creator, or something like that. I can't remember if that was the actual thing. It might have been his, her, his, no, something like that. And so people are wondering, like, does that line up to actual people? Like, maybe it's like Dirk and Calliope, and maybe it's like, you know, Dirk and then Aisha and then Hussey, or something like that. I'm not super invested as like an answer. I don't think it's like a secret key to anything. I am personally under the theory that it's referring to, like, I forget where the pronouns were, but, like, Dirk and then Aisha and then Hussey, or like whatever. I mean, not that Hussey is Aisha's creator. That would be fucking wild. But you know, like, the levels of, like, story power. Oh yeah, because it was his, so Dirk, and then, like, Dirk would be in control of, like, the Homestuck narrative, and then Aisha's dad, who wrote Feferi's route, would be next, and then Aisha, who oversees everyone writing Pester Quest, and then Hussey, who presumably vaguely oversees everyone who writes everything from a really, like, nah, do what you want, here's a basic outline for some shit sort of way. I think that's the levels. Anyway, that's my theory of what it is. I think it's just a nod to, I think it's just a meta nod and not, like, anything of serious consequence. But, I mean, meta nods in Homestuck turn into things of serious consequence. So who knows? and then you get to choose to either go for enlightenment and try to get to those expanded worlds and fight things at the source. I guess basically becoming your ultimate self through meditation over years and decades and centuries. Or to focus on the immediate problems at hand and solve things in the smaller picture and ignore the bigger picture because, here and the now matters, and the people here and the now matters, even if it doesn't matter in the ultimate grand scheme of things. And I like that both choices are, good and valid choices for different reasons. And I like that there is a slight difference in what Kiriko says about Reader in both of those routes. In one, he calls Reader, marshmallow-like, and the other he calls him cheese-like. I don't know, I like little differences like that. Kind of like I said in the earlier Eridan route, I just like when there are slight differences like that between your choices, even if a lot of the part is the same. There are a lot of theories that Kiriko is being controlled by Calliope. Whether it's alt Calliope or a dead Calliope out there is kind of interesting to me. I don't know, I think there are a lot of good possibilities for that. Kind of sucks that that's what Kiriko is being used for. It kind of makes you wonder what happens in the Friend Sim timeline, and if that's a hint of something we're going to get when Highest Swap 2 comes out, or what all is going on with that, because I think that's pretty neat. I just wasn't super excited about Feferi's route. I feel bad because, I like Aisha's dad. I like his writing. I like, the Friend Sim routes he did. I'm just not a huge fan of this one, and that's fine. You can't like everything. It's just I feel bad because I know he looks at critiques of shit online, and I'm like, no, please don't. Please don't. I'm not going to talk about it online then, because you're good, and I don't want to harsh your vibes, dude. It just wasn't my favorite. I think that it was too plot and meta-focusy and not enough about Feferi. I don't feel like we learned anything new about Feferi. We learned a bit new about, there's a fucking crystal ball thing that heiresses have the option of looking at, and Feferi's used it to talk about Eridan, probably, because she mentions using, no, this isn't about quadrants or anything, but, we're yeah, we know Feferi is next in line, and we know she knows Alternia sucks, and we know she's kind of out of touch about it. I like the little bit thing we got with that, where she's yeah, no, when I'm Empress, everything will be better. And Reader's when will you be Empress? And she's in a couple thousand years, not too long. And, or a couple thousand sweeps, I think. And Eridan, fuck. Reader is so what about what's going on right now, though? And she's I don't know. So, yeah, but I don't think we got really anything new with them. In the last route, I forgot to mention, Feferi was with Solix, but in this route, it's she doesn't know anyone else exists. I feel you bring up Vriska and Terezi at some point, but I can't remember if that was just Reader's internal monologue or if he was telling Feferi about Vriska and Terezi and what they're trying to do. But, she just doesn't... I don't think she has any reaction to, anyone else. I don't know what part of the timeline she's in, if this is supposed to be, pre-Eridan's route, because, but, I don't know. I'm kind of confused about that. And, yeah, it wasn't... I just don't feel like it was a Feferi character episode, and I know people liked... some people did like the whole meta shit that happened, and yeah, we're getting towards the end. We only have the alphas left after this. It's, more plot stuff is going to happen, and that's fine. But, a lot of plot stuff happened with Aradia, and I still feel like we got to know Aradia a little better. I don't know. I feel like there was more personality in that. Well, I feel in this one, we heard from not Kiriko more than we heard from Feferi. So, I just kind of came away feeling pretty meh about it. Yeah, I just don't feel like we got a deeper dive into Feferi, and that kind of sucks. So yeah, those are my overall thoughts on everything. My next Wednesday episode is going to be another Positive Communities episode. Also, I have my next Fan Stuck scheduled, so it won't be another, 3 months or something between my Fan Stuck episodes, because I know a lot of you really like that. I think I just had to, chill on that for a hot sec. So, I'm not gonna announce that yet. It's gonna be a surprise, but you guys are gonna like it. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. It's gonna be in a couple of weeks, max a month, depending on how things go with scheduling. And yeah, with all that said, I will see you Wednesday for another, probably my second to last Positive Communities episode, unless you guys send me suggestions for more things about positive communities you want me to talk about. I have suggestion boxes in my Discord, so go and check those out. They are anonymous. You can also send me a curious cat if you want to remain anonymous, or you can just DM me and say, talk about this, and I will try to write it down somewhere. Well, I will remember it if it is something I feel I can talk about. So, you can also send me suggestions for other Jack Yaks episodes. I only have one real solid idea for something else. Well, I have 2 solid ideas for something else I wanted to talk about as a general Jack Yaks sort of thing. But yeah, let me know what you guys want, because that's what I'm here for, is producing the content you desire. That was weird. Anyway, I'll see you guys Wednesday. This podcast's theme is Dirty Dirt Kitty and was created by Dami, who can be found on SoundCloud as Domino Thief. Shout out to my regulars and up on Patreon, Space Arby's. To become a patron and get episodes up to 5 days early, along with many other benefits, including but not limited to access to bloopers and original writing, physical merch, and the opportunity to get your questions and comments on the show, go to patreon.com/sociallyanxiousdragon and sign up for as little as $1 a month. You can find links to that and more in the episode's description, on the podcast's Twitter, LiveLaughStuck, or on livelaughstuck.com. Please remember to rate this podcast on your app of choice and share with your friends. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to be a little selfish.